everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create, and I'm back today to continue working on the Lost in Paradise 8.5 by 10.5. That's 8.5 by 10.5 mini album featuring, like I said, the Lost in Paradise graphic collection. So I've already got a couple of videos up and running on this, and so in this video we're going to pick up on page 6 and focus on getting page 6, 7, and 8 installed today. So I've got my stuff pre-cut and inked and ready to go. And so this is what's going to go on to page 6. Actually, that's part of 7. This is page 6. So it is going to look like this when we are finished. Okay, so this is a floating flap, and we've already done this on page 3, where the flap doesn't actually attach to the base page, it attaches to this mat. So we're going to need to cut a slit here, and I'm going to walk through that process. The first one I did, I had already pre-cut it, but I'm going to actually show you how to measure and cut it on this one. And it won't take but a few minutes, but I am going to need to set the book aside. So you want to get your base mat out. I'm going to move all my floating papers so they're not in the way. And we're going to want to install this flap centered on the mat. So I'm going to eyeball this, and then I'm going to use, I'll get this floating piece out too. Use my handy grid guide to make sure that I'm not drifting one way or the other. Then I'm going to pencil in a line, and I'm going to use a box cutter or an X-Acto knife, straight edge, to splice into this mat. And once I do that, we're going to use that splice to insert this hinge. Now the first thing I want to go back and do before I do that is I'm going to pull my book back around, and I want this page to be a mirror of this page. So I have to remind myself how it's opening up. So I want the top flap to open away from the spine. So as I'm planning this orientation, this is exactly how I want it. I want the flap to open away from the spine. So it's not that critical, but I did want them to be mirror images as opposed to exact images, in which case it would flip open to the right. So it's on a different side, so I want it to open away from the spine, and this is it. Which means that my slit is actually going to be on this side where the hinge is. Okay, I'm going to sit down now, and I'll try to keep my volume up so you can hear what I'm saying. So I'm sitting down now. And I'm actually going to go ahead and use the grid, my work surface grid, to help me square things up a little bit. Do I have it? Yeah. Get all that extra paper out, so all I'm seeing is the black line. And if I recall correctly, my finished flap is, I'm gonna double check. It's 8.5. 8.5 inches wide, and it needs to go on this just under 10-inch piece of paper. So what I think I need, double check. Okay, it's a little too far over this way. And I'm actually just sliding it, watching the grid here. Okay, 1, 2, I think I did it too far. 1, yep. There, that should be about right. Now, that's the right distance back and forth. Now what I need to do is I'm going to make a quick line here with my pencil, and then I'm going to measure it and center it up and down just using the ruler. So this is 7 inches tall, so I know the slit in this needs to be 7 inches. And this is 7 7/8. So I'm going to turn it sideways so I can look at the line this way. So the width of this is 7 7/8, and then the panel I'm laying on top is 7. So I know I've got 7/8 that I need to split in half, so that I would wind up using 3 1/2/8 here and 3 1/2/8 here. And hopefully 1, 2, 3, that makes some sense. So if I place my mat at that point, it should be that it's equal on both sides, and hopefully that makes sense. So you take the number you have here and then the number I have here. So I take 7 and subtract it from 7 7/8, which is the width of this paper, and the difference is 7/8 of an inch. Then I take that number and divide it in 2 because I want half of it on the top and half of it on the bottom. And that's how I come up with that little tick mark where it's going to be. So I now know that I need to run my slit from here, and then I need to find my stopping point to right about there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, and then we may need to tweak this a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this out. It looks like it's right at 7, and then I'm going to test it and see if my flap will fit in. If not, we might need to make it a little bit broader, but hopefully it'll be very close. Okay. So I want to do 2 things when I'm sorry, I'm in my own light, so I was having a hard time seeing the bottom of the slit. 2 things I want to do when I test it is I want to make sure that the flap will fit. That's one. And then I also want to make sure I didn't somehow make the line drift one way or another. And it looks like it needs to be a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to add just a smidge on this side and this side. And hopefully it'll now fit. And it does. It will fit. So I'm going to also do this. I'm going to go ahead and miter the corners. And it'll just make it easier to slide it in. But it does fit nice and snug. Okay. Okay, now once I have that on, I'm just looking to see that it looks pretty even all the way around. And I'm liking the way that looks. All right. So I am going to go ahead and put some tape down here, and I should have put it on the flap before I put it on the reverse side before I put it down, but I didn't. So we're just going to make it work with its current orientation. I'm just going to slide some tape underneath it. Like so. Only because I don't really want to take it back in and out. The more you take it in and out of here, the more opportunity there is to further tear that slit. So I'm just going to do that, pull this off, and turn it over and make sure the alignment is still straight, and make sure everything still looks very good, and it does. Okay, I'm going to peel this off. And then lay down that flap. Okay, that's it. So now the next thing we're going to do is, I think I want to just go ahead like I did, I did last time, is build everything on here and then apply the whole thing to the book. Okay, so I've got to shuffle through my papers. This is my top, which is gorgeous. I'm just going to quick dry fit. Everything looks wonderful. So let's get some glue on it and get it down. a little too close to the edge. So there. Let me go ahead and use this contrast. It really helps. I'm working with artificial light. We just haven't had good enough, sunny enough days. And I feel like I've waited long enough to get this video out that I have to work with artificial light. So that's beautiful. So that is looking gorgeous. And I'm just double checking, but I'm putting everything in the right orientation. I am. This will open away from the spine. And then this side will open this way. Which reminds me, I still need to get a magnet on the back. Yep, there we go. So now we need to do a couple of things. This is going to be the large piece that's going to go on this side. That's upside down. And it needs to be inked. And one of the things I did early on, I didn't go over it with you, is I put this strip in. And the hinge for this page is just attached 1 inch away from, actually just under an inch away from the edge of the paper. So I just have this one strip, and then we get the look of the matching strip from the mat below. Because this is a strip and it's easy to lose those along the way, I went ahead and trimmed that out and glued it down early on so I wouldn't misplace that strip. Just so you know, it's not this mat showing all the way through, it's a separate strip. And I did the same thing on the other page. I think it was page 3, and I forgot to mention it. And I'm trying to remember. I must have explained that in the base tutorial, but I don't remember doing it. But sorry, this is the big piece. This is the piece that goes on the side. So there we go. Sorry, all the shuffling around. When I start a lot during the day, the restarting process can be a little discombobulated. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm starting to feel my flow come back. Did I take do I have a magnet on here that I didn't take off? No, it's off. Okay. See what I mean? The stop start, I wasn't even sure I took the tape back off the magnet, but I did. Okay, that is the inside. That's gorgeous. I love the yellow with this pattern. So pretty. And this is lovely too. And then in here, we have these two pieces that are going to go together, which I also like. So this is a lovely collection. You're going to enjoy working with it. I really like the patterns and solids with this collection. And sometimes in their collections, there'll be a page that I'm like, I'm just really having a hard time working with that. And they have one in this collection, but the good news is, and I'll show it to you, it's this page that I just can't, I just have a hard time visualizing. Somebody can, but I can't figure it out. But the good news is it's on the cut apart page, which I always use anyway. And in fact, I sometimes don't cut out all my cut aparts because I want to use the flip side too. But in this case, I don't feel one bit bad about it. I'm going to use every single one of my cutouts throughout the album. And I dropped my paper, so I've got to do a little bit of cleanup here before it gets too dry. All right, grab my wet wipe, clean my hands off, and get this down. Wet wipes are nice to have handy for things like that. I'm going to take a sliver off this. I think it's a little too tall. Did I do the right orientation? I did. Okay, and then I'm going to ink it real quick. We're in. See how fast this goes? It's the first one that takes forever. And then you start doing the second set in the second half of the album, and they always go so much faster. Turn this sideways. So there, we need to place a magnet back here, and that's the magnet that's going to hold the larger flap down. So let me find my tape. Here's my large tape. And this is 5/8, just so you know. 2 strips of smaller tape, or even 3/8 is better than nothing, but I like to cover the whole magnet if I can. 1 inch would even be better. Okay, I'm just cleaning off my space a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and lay this down. And I got little flakes of glue here and there, so I'm going to sweep my surface. There we go. And this is going to go in just like so. And that is the end of page 7. It's beautiful. I'm really pleased. So, make sure you get some glue on your tape so that you have a moment to slide this around. It is kind of large and bulky, so you'll want that extra time. All right, I'm going to change the orientation, and I'm also going to put some contrast behind it to help me locate the edge. Double check my orientation. This is right. That's just perfect. I love it when a plan comes together. Okay, well, I hope you guys are enjoying the video. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate you taking time out to come and spend with us here at Scrap and Create, checking out our videos. And I know a lot of you come over to our shop, and we really appreciate you shopping with us. So, I mean, one of the reasons we provide free content is to encourage people to come over and shop with us. I know that's not possible for everybody. Some of you are out of country, and we really only ship in the United States. And I'd like to thank you for subscribing, shopping, and sharing your time with us. Okay, now we're ready for the next page. This one's really simple. So I just got 2 simple flaps, an up and a down, and then this base mat. So this is going to go in very quickly. Now the next page behind this is just like page 1, so it's a little bit more complicated. It's going to take a little time. So if you don't have a lot of time right now, you might want to, this would be a good breaking point, even though I just started, but the next one will take a little while. I got quite lengthy on the last video. I like to try to keep my videos under an hour. For lots of reasons. I think that's a lot of time to have to watch something, but it also takes a lot longer to upload. The bigger the video, the longer it takes to upload. But I got kind of lengthy on the last one because I really wanted to get all the way through page 4 and 5, which I did, but it was at the expense of the length of the video. So Okay, that's in. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and do our... I have to figure out what my plan was here, but I think it was this. Yes, it was. It's all coming back to me. I'll double check dry fit first. I have to remember that DFF, dry fit first. I mentioned it in the last video, but I'll mention it again. Typically what I do is the larger pieces of the album, like this main mat here, I go to the 12 by 12 paper collections, either the collection pack or the patterns and solids. And then when I'm working with something smaller than the main mat, like this flap, then I go to the 8 by 8s and use patterns from that collection. Then the other rule of thumb too is, well, and especially for this, because the 8 by 8 won't extend to 10 inches, right? So if you were going to use 8 by 8 here, you'd have to add a strip. So that's kind of the rule of thumb when I'm designing albums. And it's true for my 8 by 8s too. I might use the 12 by 12 for the 8 by 8 main page, and then my sub flaps, I go to the 8 by 8 as a general design guideline or rule of thumb. And the reason I do that is because the way Graphic 45 does their papers is the 8 by 8 is the same pattern as the 12 by 12 scaled down. So it is, you know, roughly 30% smaller than the other one. So it's not like just a smaller sheet with the same scale. They actually scale it down. So the size of the pattern seems to fit better. Okay, now we're ready to do the inside. And this is the patterns that I chose for the inside. And I like both of these. I think I want to put, trying to decide which one I want up and which one I want down. And I think I like the bigger pattern on the bottom. And that's the alternative. You know what? I think I'm going to use this. I don't think I've used it very much throughout the album, so I'll use this. Shift everything up so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, now I'm going to flip everything around. And this is also pretty, but because of the way, well, I guess I could use it, but I did kind of cut into the paradise, so I was actually planning on using this side. And I think I'll stick with that design. And for some reason I missed the ink on this, so I'll do that real quick. It's probably not very obvious to you, but it jumps out at me here in person. Okay, and there's no real orientation here, so I'm just going to lay it down the way I have it in my hand. That is done. There. I think these two actually look really good together. This is more focused on the reds and yellows. between these two pages. I like it. Okay, now I'm just cleaning up, doing a little housekeeping here. And we are on to page 8, which is the final page in the album. And we've got a little bit of piecing. I'm just going to set all these papers aside for the moment. There we go. And I don't need that anymore, and I don't need this anymore. Okay. So I'm going to have to do a little sorting here to get it all ironed out again. But I believe this strip is what's going to go here. But I have to lay it out real quick. These are internal. So these are going to go here and here. I think that's my outside. Nope. Is that right? No, I think I put this guy on the inside. Yeah, that's it. That's it. So let's do it. Oh, my goodness. I haven't inked these edges. So I'm going to dry fit, ink, and get this laid down. It's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. This is another pattern that I didn't use a lot of, and that's because I wanted my cut-aparts. Okay, done. That is done. Turn it sideways. And then we'll get this in. I'm going to dry fit real quick. What? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I almost did that. These are too large. I don't know what I was thinking, but these are about a ½ inch too large. I think I had measured it from this hinge over and not from here over. So I've got to let that dry, and we're going to have to reset that. But I'm glad I caught it when I did. Wow, sorry about that, guys. So again, I had measured this out so that it came all the way to the edge of this instead of where the hinge is. So this is about a ½ inch too big. So, and I didn't just do it once. I did it twice. I did it on both sides. So, okay. What did I say about DFF? Dry fit first. That's why. Okay, another 7/8. That's straight. Okay, now, man, I'm glad that wasn't completely dry. Dum-dum. And you know what? I didn't ink one of those. Oh, of course I did. Trim it. Okay. Oh my goodness. Back on track. And that looks good. Whoa. That was a disaster averted. I'm telling you, one more minute and that would not have come up. I would have been trying to figure out how to trim it while it was glued down, which is possible, but it wouldn't be easy. So I said it once before, do as I say, not as I do. Dry fit first, especially with glue. You can undo tape, but you cannot undo glue. If I wouldn't have caught that when I did, I would have, like I said, been figuring out how to trim down that paper while it was attached. No easy feat. Get this in. And now it fits beautifully. Okay, as it should have the first time. Okay. Now I'm going to do this side. Just a little excess glue. And this needs to come down a 1/2 inch. Oh, look at me, dry fitting. What a great idea. What a great idea. Who knew? Okay, here we go. I'm gonna push this and make sure it's all the way down. Glue in there. Okay, now we do the centerpiece. And before we put glue on it, let's make sure it fits. And it does, and that's beautiful. I love this print. This is definitely from the 8.5 by 11 too, and I can tell by the scale. I said 8.5 by 11, 8 by 8. I can tell by the scale. And I haven't inked this either. I don't know. I must have been asleep at the wheel when I cut this page because I left the ink off everything. And it matters to me. I don't like to see the white edge, but this is also something that really is hard to do after you glue it down. You can get a sponge in there and work it in, but it's really hard to do. I gotta tell you, this is gonna be really easy to put photos on. I'm gonna have a hard time covering that up, but that's the way it is. Sometimes there's some patterns that you just can't bring yourself to cover, and that's okay. There's plenty of room for photos on either side. Okay, now we're ready to cover the outside, and we're using this very simple pattern, and actually it's gonna close like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these laid down, and these are inked. And I am going to follow my own advice and dry fit this before I put glue on it. Check the other one. It seems a little close to the head. No, it's okay. And it's inked. Okay, ready. This pattern right here reminds me of a Hawaiian shirt, you know, like something you'd see on a man's Hawaiian shirt, which I like. It's kind of nostalgic and it's in its own way. Okay. Perfect. Looking good, looking good. Okay, now we are on to this little corner got folded up once, so I'm going to add a little extra glue. For some reason it's got some memory and it keeps wanting to fold up on me. There. That should do it. Okay, now we're going to work on the little waterfall feature here. And I mentioned when I did the first page, we had put in all these features as part of the album build, and then I came back and decided that I wanted to add a pocket down here so I could tuck ephemera in here to keep all this closed. And I will go over that measurement again because we did not do this as part of the main build. This is 5 inches by 2 3/8. So 5 inches by 2 3/8. You're gonna score it 1/2 inch and 4 1/2. So you're gonna have basically a 4-inch pocket when you're finished, which should be the same span as the 4x4 you have up here. And I've got some tape here. I'm going to tape the flanges. You can glue it if you want, but I'm going to use tape here, and then I'm going to use a bead of glue along the bottom. Okay, here's my pick tool. And then I just did something that I didn't really mean to do. I actually want to leave a tab on. I'm not going to put this down yet. I'm actually going to install this piece first. Do I really want to do that? No, I don't. I don't. So there's a couple of schools of thought. You could put this piece down and then glue your pocket directly over this, but I really want it slightly inside my pocket. And the reason I like that is it helps if everything is inside this flange. When you add stuff in and out of your pocket, it doesn't get hung up. Having said that, I should have left a little bit of the back of the tape on. So I'm going to just tear off a piece of scrap and leave that on while we adhere the rest of the pocket. And then we'll pull those tabs off after we slip a piece of paper into behind the pocket. Am I making sense? I'm not sure. Is that right? Is it going to go inside? It is going to go inside, so I don't really need these tabs. I take that back. That only matters if you have a flat pocket. I was confusing myself. If you have a flat pocket, there's nothing to slip it inside of, so you have to leave a little piece open. Okay, and I'm just trying to square off the corner here and go flush with the sides, these two sides. Your eye will be drawn here, not here. Okay, that's in. So now we can add this, and this will slide inside the pocket. Versos. Yeah, there we go. So I'm gonna get some glue on this. It is inked, and slide it into place. Okay, this goes down here like so, and then we have a very small decorative strip. This is from the cut aparts of the 8x8 mini album, and that's what I'm going to place right on top. And so I'm actually going to place the strip first, and that's because if I need to trim anything, I want to trim from the larger piece just because this is so hard to handle. This is very hard to trim. Besides that, it's where I want it anyway. That's in. Okay, now let's see. Does this work? And it looks good, so I don't think I'm going to trim this at all. I think I'm just going to install it the way it is. Beautiful. Okay, that's it. Now we got to decorate the actual flaps. And I just realized I don't have, I did this on the first one too. So I've only got papers cut for the top of the flaps. For some reason I didn't cut papers for the back. So we'll have to do that. I'll have to find 4 coordinating pieces to go on the reverse side. But these are the pieces that I trimmed out and prepared for the top because I wanted to bring in the blue accent. So I'm going to put the pattern on the top and the blue is going to be second. And so I need to decide, do I want the stripes horizontal or vertical? And so I'm just laying them down to see what it looks like. And then we can make a decision because this is a perfect square. I can go either way. And I'm pretty sure I did horizontal on the front just because I liked it better. And I think I like it better here too. It just doesn't feel as busy as this orientation. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do horizontal. Okay, I'm going to dry fit. Okay, it looks good. I keep dropping things. Feeling a little clumsy. Okay, there's one. And now we're going to go to the stripe. But first I'm going to DFF, dry fit first. Okay, 2. I don't know if it's just me or everybody, but it feels like the smaller pieces go in so much easier. I don't know why. I guess because visually you can get all the edges in without having to move your head around. They're just all right in one tight space. I guess this is directional. There's very faint words in the background. I don't see any on this particular one, but fortunately I got that one in the right way. And this one I don't see any words, so there you go. Some of them are, some aren't. Or some parts of the pattern. Okay, and then we have one more to go down here and fit it. Okay, looks good. And then I'm going to pause and go cut 4 pieces of paper and we're going to finish this. Okay, so we now need to decorate the inside, so I'm going to go get 4 pieces of paper trimmed out and ready to lay down on the inside. Be right back. Okay, I found some paper that we can use to trim this out with, and then I remembered that we still need to put this strip down between the 2 design features. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this strip down so that I don't mislay it again. And then we'll finish the back side of the waterfall feature, and then that's it for page 8. And then what we have left is the inside covers, front and back, and then the outside covers, front and back. And I do have the paper picked out for the front. So I think I'm going to go ahead and lay that down in this video. And then I'm thinking about, and I have to go back through and inventory my paper again. I'm thinking about adding pockets to the front and back, but I have to make sure I have enough paper. So I haven't made that decision yet. So the papers I'm using for the inside are the red and blue and the red pulls in this stripe again. And so I have 2 reds, 1 blue, and I didn't like the way the red or blue looked next to this green. And I don't know why my fingers aren't working. So that was one option, and I thought, oh, the patterns look so similar. I'm not crazy about it. That was the other option, which I like a little better because it pulls this blue back in. But what I've decided on is this. So I think it's just a little bit more of a break. And I needed a pattern up here versus one of the solids. So this is what I decided on. I could use either side, but that's too close to that, so I am going to go with this. So I've inked these. I'm just double checking the fit. It looks good. I'm going to get it in. Got a little heavy there. Okay, liking it, I'm liking it. And I don't want blue on blue, so this is where I'll add a red. Okay, perfect. Okay, now I've got some red and blue here, so this is where I'm going to pull in a blue. And I'm checking for the orientation before I commit it. Okay, this is our last piece. And there are some words, so I was just checking for the orientation. Get it in right side up. One of my first albums, which I really like the way it turned out, except it was a Christmas album. I noticed, not even when I was doing the walkthrough, but when I watched the video later, I noticed that I had one of my papers in upside down. Luckily, it wasn't on the top, it was on the inside, but that was a hard lesson learned. I have to try to be careful. And that's why I try to remind you throughout the video too, check your orientation. Always be checking your orientation. Now I am going to cardstock back some ephemera to hold this closed, but for the moment I'm just going to use this here so it's not flopping around on us. And I'm going to, that is it for page 8. So now we have the inside liners and the front cover. And since I already have the cover trimmed out and I know what it's going to be, I'm going to clean my surface here. And those are just a little bit of dried glue flakes that you're seeing. And it's not a big deal, but they'll make a little bump in the paper. So this is what we're going to use for the cover. So I'm going to go ahead and ink this and get it laid down. And I have the spine picked out as well, so we'll do that. But I'm going back and forth on my design for the inside covers and for the back. And I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. And this is just the base cover. I will do some embellishing, but right now I'm just going to lay it in. I don't like to do the embellishment on the cover till the very final phase because while I'm doing work on the inside of the book, it puts wear and tear on the cover, especially if you have dimension. So I will do all my embellishments after I've got the inside completely done. And when I mean completely done, I've gone back and added my embellishments inside as well as the cover, the liners for the front and back. Another way to do that, to keep the wear and tear off the cover, would be to do all your embellishing on your paper and just hold off installing it. I like to get it down for a couple reasons. One, I like to look at it because at this point of the design, I'm just ready to see the paper on the book. The other thing is I'm always afraid I'm accidentally going to cut into my cover sheet to use as a design feature someplace else. Even though I set it aside and I put a sticky note on it and I do all the right things, I have been known to pick it up, not look at this side, look at the flip side, and think it's an available piece of paper to put somewhere else in the book. Because we still have all the inserts for the pockets to cover. So I still do need very large pieces of paper. So what I've chose for the spine is this dark green, and it's not this one because it's too short. It's this one. And I want to make sure my orientation is right, and it is. And I'm going to dry fit it, ink it, and glue it down. I saw my corner was lifting a little, so I'm going to add a little more glue here. Okay, that should do it. All right, so I need to get some ink on this and get it laid down. And then this is what I'm currently planning for the back. But what I haven't decided is whether or not I want to break it up and add an additional feature to it, like a strip down the center or something, or even across the middle to break up that pattern, or if I'm going to break it up by adding some chipboard. So that I haven't decided yet. So we won't be gluing down the back piece yet, just the spine and the cover. And I can see here, oh, there, I just needed to press it down. I was going to say it's not sticking here either. Okay. All right. So if you're going to add charms and use a jump ring, you would poke it through this designer paper before you glued it down. There's other ways around that, and that's probably what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to have another piece of chipboard on here, and if I decide to have charms, I'll attach it to the back side of the chipboard and then attach it to this. So there's a couple of different ways to do that, and I know people have asked, but I don't go through the chipboard of the book. I only go through this designer paper. So it's a decision that you can make right up until you have flexibility right up until you glue your spine design paper down. So, okay. And even afterwards, you can just adhere. Give you an example. Let's just say this was something I wanted to add to it. I would poke the hole through this and then glue this down. All right, so like I said, this is what I'm planning for the back. So to go on like this. And so what I haven't decided is whether or not I want to put a design feature in the middle of it with some chipboard, or if I'm just going to leave it simple and plain in the back. And part of that is paper planning. And right now my focus is going to be on getting enough paper identified for the internal inserts for the pocket pages. So once that's done, I'll know what pieces I have left and how long they are. And then I'll come back and design the back. But the base of it will be this. The question is whether or not I'll add, say, for example, another design element. Not this because it doesn't fit, but something. Okay, so what's left inside is we still have to decorate the inside, front and back. And I'm also playing around with a couple of different ideas here. There's the yellow side and then there's this side, and this is quite bold. So what I'm thinking I want to do is actually cut these in half and have half yellow, half pattern, and do the same thing in the back. And then if I do decide to do that, I would make the bottom half a pocket, which is not part of the original design. So I would give you those measurements when I come back. So right now I just want to take some time to look at it, think it through, look at what kind and size papers I have left for my inserts, and then come up with a plan for that. And then when I do, I'll come back and share with you what I do here. So that's it for this video. Thanks for tuning in. This is Daphne from Scrap and Create. It's always a pleasure to have you guys join us and follow through on our videos. We love the comments. Please keep them coming. Anything you want to see that you're not seeing, or if I'm showing you too much of one thing, you want less of it, just leave that in a comment below and it will get read and it will get incorporated into our next set of videos. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And if you get a moment, come on over to our shop, take a look around. Everything you see here you can find in our shop at www.scrapandcreate.com. Thanks for tuning in.